Hey everyone, James Reeves, TFB TV. Unfortunately, I'm on vacation this week up here in hoity-toity Martha's Vineyard. I've actually never been here before. It is kind of cool, I'll give it that, but won this on a charity auction. Got a week in a little fancy shaker cabin here. So that means we've got a substitute this week, and it's not the fun substitute, you know, like the old lady who wheels the cart in and just reads her cat magazines while you watch Discovery Channel or some shit. No, we've got the grizzled old guy that's like missing a finger and wears the big suspenders he got from Ace Hardware. We've got the man himself, Ernest Langdon. He loves it when you call him Ernie. And he's going to be teaching a shotgun basics course, but this is really geared towards the Beretta 1301. We filmed this a couple years ago, and I've been sitting on this footage for such an occasion. So I'm going to go back to my vacation. Thank you guys for watching TFB TV. Happy October. Take care of yourselves.
From a technique standpoint with the shotgun, couple of things for you to keep in mind. It depends on how the shotgun is set up and how it's going to work for you, but I'm going to go over a couple things. If I can, I want my hand all the way up and over the barrel, right? If I can. When you shoot the gun a lot and it gets hot, that starts to be an issue, but it's a 7-shot tube. What that allows me to do is really grip the forend and kind of put forward pressure on it to take some of that recoil away. But I also want to bring the shotgun into my shoulder, okay, and hold it so that what I want to do is reduce this gap that's right here. Because if I hold it off of the shoulder, I can hold it off of the shoulder, but it's going to have the ability, once it recoils, to build up momentum and then strike it. But I'm going to pull with this hand, maybe 20-ish% of my pressure here, but then I'm going to push with my forward hand to try to take some of that recoil away from the gun, and that helps keep the gun flat. If you don't do that, what happens is the gun comes back, it hits the shoulder, and then has nowhere to go but up, okay? And there's not a lot of reciprocating stuff going on here, and from a leverage standpoint, it doesn't need to do this other than the fact that that's the path of least resistance. That's where the gun's going to want to go. So 8 shells in here right now, and basically I'm just going to shoot it like it was a rifle. But I'm going to put a lot more of me behind the gun, specifically with my front hand. When I shoot a rifle, there's not a lot of tension on the forend to try to control recoil. When I shoot a shotgun, way more tension on the forend to try to control recoil. Eyes and ears. So, and a lot of guys can shoot a lot faster than that, but it probably, I'm hoping it didn't look like it was kicking my ass. You can shoot it extremely fast, and you can control it really, really well if you use proper technique. Come on, you know. So let's talk about loading the shotgun and conditions of ready, of like how you would keep the shotgun loaded in the house. Couple different ways. First of all, I could just load the gun all the way up, round in the chamber, load the tube all the way up, all that kind of stuff. And that's not a bad way to have the shotgun loaded. The problem with that is you're loading it and unloading it, loading it, unloading it. And law enforcement and a lot of people in a kind of a tactical community have gone to what is often referred to as the cruiser ready. Okay, meaning I have a full tube, mag tube loaded up, but I do not have a round in the chamber. And I'm just going to put 1 round in here for demonstration purposes. So that's the way the gun is configured. If the tube was all the way loaded up, it would be in cruiser ready. And the key here is the gun is off safe, right? I don't have to worry about the safety when I pick the gun up, because that's typically the way we would leave the gun. One of the reasons that people do that, or law enforcement does that, is a lot of shotguns are not truly drop safe because there's no fire and pin block in the bolt carrier group, okay? Meaning if the gun did drop from a high enough distance, you could get enough energy to fire the gun, and that's the reason, even with the gun on safe, they don't put a round in the chamber, okay? Until they pick the gun up and they're in control of it, or they think they're gonna use it. So when we get the gun from this point, and I wanna make the gun work, I have to get around onto the carrier. And this is one of the kind of cool things about the 1301 that's different from, like, say, your standard 870 pump or something like that, is I can cycle the bolt all day long now, and it's not going to put a round in the chamber. All right, it just stays, all the rounds stay in the mag tube. So if somebody else gets a hold of the shotgun, okay, and they're going to try to use it against you, let's say, I'm just hypothetically speaking, and they're like, oh, I'm going to put a round in the chamber, or I come up and whatever, it's not going to work. Okay, now there's two ways we get a round in the chamber. The first one is we pull the trigger, because when you pull the trigger, it's going to release the carrier, right? So again, empty chamber, pull the trigger, and then the round that's in the tube drops onto the carrier, and now I can put a round in the chamber. Okay, so doesn't really work completely for, like, nobody can use my gun, because if they pick it up, they pull the trigger, they put a round in the carrier, and if they're smart enough to then cycle the bolt, they got a round on the chamber. Make sense? The other way to do it is I've, again, got my tube loaded, I'm ready to go. As I come up and I hit that carrier release latch right here, that drops the shell onto the carrier, and now I can put a round into the chamber. Make sense? When we're doing this and manipulating it, and this is not a full, like, shotgun class, but I'm going to highly recommend that your dominant hand stays on the forearm, and you want to manipulate the gun with your support hand primarily. Make sense? So if I want to do a bolt load, the gun's empty load, it locks to the rear and it's kind of an emergency, there's two accepted ways to do it. One is to come over the top, okay? And the other one's to come under the bottom. Under the bottom tends to be a little bit better with this particular semi-auto shotgun, and I'm gonna explain why. Unless I turn the gun completely sideways, it's really easy to fumble and drop that shell, okay? So if I come underneath, I pull it out and I come underneath, I can easily throw that shell into the chamber and then press the bolt release, okay? When you come over the top and do that, what can happen, I'm gonna show you guys this real easy. What can easily happen there is you come over the top and you go to hit it and your hand is in the way of that, and it doesn't have to be an oversized one, it's still in the way of the charging handle for the bolt. It gets hit and then I don't chamber that round all the way. Okay, so underneath starts to be a really practical way to do this. Over the top is really popular when you're running a pump shotgun, because I'm gonna have to come over the top and I'm still gonna have to manually put the gun back in battery. So those are things for you to think about from that standpoint. Let's talk about shotgun ammo real quick. One of the big myths with a shotgun that happens all the time is people say, oh, I'll get a shotgun because that way it'll just shoot everything, if it's in front of the gun, I can just take them out and I won't, I don't have to aim. For the purposes of what we're talking about with the shotgun, first of all, that's completely untrue, but it's really important to understand what your ammunition does that you have in the shotgun, and understand how it patterns. Inside of a house, what would you arguably say is a normal distance to be shooting a gun in a defensive situation inside the house?
7 to 10 yards.
Yeah, so 7 to 10 yards. So I'm gonna pace off like 7 yards. We'll start with that one. So inside a house, I'm gonna do two different shells here. I'll do a birdshot one first, and then we'll do a buckshot one. So one of the arguments is that birdshot is just as good as buckshot, inside a house, because the payload is basically the same. You've got, depending on what it is, somewhere between an ounce and an eighth of some type of, lead inside of a cup, right? So birdshot is very, very small pellets, and we can cut some open and look at it so you understand what we're talking about. But when I'm shooting birdshot inside 7 yards, let's see what we got for a pattern on the target. Eyes and ears. All right, I'll shoot at the top bullseye here. See what we got. Take it off safe. Okay, so come look at the target. So birdshot opens up just in 7 yards quite a bit. This right here, I wouldn't want to get hit with it, but it's probably not going to be super lethal. That's just the wad that was holding the birdshot as it came out. So there's my pattern at 7 yards, and so probably not lethal. Would I want to eat it? No, I wouldn't want that, right? But probably not what I would look for instant incapacitation of someone who has put my life in imminent danger, right? I didn't hit everything in the hallway. okay? It didn't do that sweeping, take everybody out kind of thing, right? It still needs to be aimed. All right, let's back up. We're gonna shoot a buckshot now. This is Federal Flight Control buck. And this is really important because this is probably more realistic of something you would keep in your shotgun for home defense, okay? Bottom bullseye, okay? For all intents and purposes, this is basically a rifle round. You're shooting what is basically a single projectile. So if you're going to use a shotgun for home defense, it doesn't take everybody out in the hallway. You still need to aim it. This is Federal Flight Control, so it holds a much tighter pattern than you would see from regular buckshot. But inside 7 yards of regular buckshot, you're still talking about, you know, possibly inside the 9 ring here, likely with high quality buckshot. As you back up, that changes a lot. But the real key point here is that birdshot, buckshot, doesn't matter. You're shooting close to a single projectile and you don't have the magical aiming error that you can have where I just kind of in that direction, I'm gonna be good. You still have to aim it. So I'm gonna put this at about 20-ish yards, eyeballing, but about 20-ish yards, Federal Flight Control. And I'll do bottom bullseye on that right target. Okay. And I pulled it a little bit. I saw the ring drift a little low right when I pulled the trigger. But again, that's the wad, not really important. You know, wouldn't want to get hit with it, but not gonna get a ton of penetration. But now I've got 9 pellets, 32 caliber pellets, all in a relatively small area. The important piece is, from a lethality standpoint, this is a tremendously effective round. I mean, you're talking about somewhere around 350 grains of 450, 430 grains of projectile, somewhere in that range at 1300 feet per second, right? That's like big game projectiles, right? So from a terminal performance standpoint, it is truly devastating and it's true fight stopper, right? So I'm gonna go grab a slug and we'll shoot one of those too. So this is a 1 ounce slug. This is a full power slug. Low recoil slugs are really, really popular, but this is full power, 1 ounce at just under 1600 feet per second. It's like 550 or something like that. So super, super stout projectile. I believe we're talking, I should know this off the top of my head, I think it's just right at 68 caliber. So it's a large projectile as well, okay? So we're back at about, we'll call it 40-ish yards or something like that, and I'll shoot top bullseye with this one. Let's go take a look at that. So decent 10 ring hit, not exactly center. That was me. I could see my little ring drift a little high and right as I pulled the trigger. Okay, but you know that the gun is fully capable of hitting a man-sized target at 100 yards when we start talking about a slug. So we have something that takes this from a short range gun into not a long range gun, but a longish range gun. And again, terminal performance wise, you know, I'll put this up against any of your shoulder fired rifle cartridges as far as how it affects the target. So that's one of the beauties of a shotgun, is we can go everything from, I can kill a dove, you know, to eat, or I can go kill an elephant or a big game or something like that, because again, 437 grain projectile at nearly 1600 feet per second is a legit projectile. All right, so let's talk about the 1301, the Langdon Tactical 1301 Tactical, what the kind of the features and benefits and what all the levers and buttons and all of those things do, so we understand how the gun works. Starting with, we've got a base shotgun, which is the 1301 Tactical, probably arguably one of the best semi-auto shotguns on the market when it comes to tactical work, and we've upgraded it. Stock This is a Magpul SGA stock for the Mossberg GG&G adapter. Why this stock? This stock is quite a bit superior in a few ways to the factory stock. And that really starts helping when you try to short stock the gun, manipulate the gun, holding onto the gun. I think that is an advantage over the standard stock that comes on the gun. It's also got a really good recoil pad on it and adjustable, so you can get the length of pull correct for you. And you have the ability to put slings on there. You can put quick disconnects. There's like a lot of cool options with the stock. Quick disconnects right there, actually. Oversized bolt release. This is huge, and what this does is releases the bolt when it's locked to the rear. It's going to lock to the rear for two reasons. One, it's going to lock to the rear after you fire the last shot. It'll lock to the rear. Or if you press this tab here, drop the carrier down, it'll lock to the rear after that if there's no shell in the on the carrier. And why that's important, if you want to lock the bolt back and not pull the trigger, which is probably the smarter way to go, you press this little tab here and it allows you to lock the back, and now you're in a good administrative position to kind of handle the gun. The safety on the 1301 is a cross bolt safety, super common on shotguns, and it is reversible. So we can take it, flip it around to the other side if somebody is left-handed, but it's designed so that you can take it off safe from a straight finger position. So that's a good feature, and it does have an oversized bolt handle that makes it easier to cycle. This particular one has the Crown backup mount for it and a 509T, and this one is set up with a ring and not a dot. On a shotgun, that kind of seems to be a cool thing to have, but it's just a ring. If basically when you're shooting buckshot, if it's inside the ring, inside 25 yards, that's where all the buckshot's going to go with federal flight control. The forearm is a Zukov forearm. This is actually for basically an AK, but what it does is it gives those M-lock mounts, so we can mount sling swivels, we can mount flashlights and all that other kind of stuff. For a home defense shotgun, there's two things that I'm going to say is very important. One is a light source, because doing handheld techniques with a shotgun is super difficult. Can it be done? Yes. It takes a lot of skill, and it's hard to shoot the shotgun well. So a light source is important, and ammunition on the gun, right? You're probably going to be grabbing this when you're naked or in whatever skivvies you wear at night, and you're not going to be throwing on a battle belt and shell holders and everything else. So ammo needs to be on the side of the gun, all right, or located on the gun. And the side saddle is a good place. Why is this side saddle set up the way it is? It's set up the way it is so that when I want to load, I am pulling at a different angle so that I can pull it out and go straight back in to the feed ramp. It doesn't, if it's straight up and down, I got to pull out, change directions, pull again. So this allows me to pull the shell. It's a brand new one, so it's tight, and I can feed like that, okay? This particular one comes with a cylinder bore choke tube in it. They're interchangeable. For the purposes of a tactical shotgun, cylinder bore is probably the best way to go, right? It does everything you need it to do. But if you ever did want to do something else with a shotgun, that gives you the option of putting a tighter choke tube in there to get a better pattern. So now the gun's ready to go. If I pull the trigger now, I get a loud bang. Make sense?